When the first row of pavers is set in place, I prepare for the next row by adding a little more mortar mix and screeding it flat. Here you can see how I'm using the screeder as a straight edge that I use to keep the pavers aligned and parallel in our pattern.
You come and go like a monsoon rain. You hide and show like a lightning bolt. You have it all.
In the previous episode, we used our sandstone pigmented tile cement to attach our sandstone bricklets to the concrete steps we'd built. I was making the most of leftover material from a sandstone pathway I'd constructed on the front of the same property. After the completion of these two steps that lead up to a timber deck that gives access to the rear door of the house, we're now ready to continue our process by adding the recycled pathway that attached to the front step. We've got our sandstone cladding finished this morning, so we're going to move on to paving this area here. Got a bunch of our recycled paving blocks all cleaned up and ready to go over here. Cleaned up some of the edges on them. We've also put down this chicken wire as a way to reinforce the concrete once it sets up. I've constructed a special screeding tool. This is to set the level of our concrete. The plan is to mix up a special mixture of dry concrete and mortar mix in my cement mixer. Then we'll be dumping it out here, screeding it out smooth with this tool, and laying these pavers on top. This chicken wire will be suspended amongst the dry concrete. When it sets up, it'll help tie it all together. And after a few days, it'll be hard enough to walk on. To get our process started, I'm combining bags of concrete with bags of mortar mix, adding them into my cement mixer without any water. We're making a dry cement mix. I'm using a ratio of 2/3 concrete to 1/3 mortar. This will give me a consistency that'll make it easy to make a really flat surface for our pavers to lay on. One of the advantages of using a dry concrete base to lay your pavers on is it saves a lot of time. A disadvantage with this process is the grey concrete mix can stain the top of the pavers. But as we're using grey concrete pavers in this project, that's not going to be an issue. My goal is to create a 75mm thick base of concrete that'll lay underneath the pavers, creating a solid foundation. The screeder that I made is being used as an indicator to let me know when I've added enough concrete mix to start the screeding process. Dragging the screeder back and forth across the concrete mix will help smooth it out and set it to the correct height for what we'll be laying the pavers on. As I work the screeder back and forth, it flattens out the high points and shows up voids where there are low points. I add more of the mixture into these voids and continue the process of pushing the screeder back and forth until I get a unified flat surface.
When the wind blows and the windows are closing, you let the world know what has been has been. There's no use in looking back, going back, wishing back.
When I'm satisfied the concrete mortar mix is flat and compacted, I start adding the pavers on top. I'm placing the pavers as gently as possible as to not disturb our dry mix underneath them. I use my set square to check that I've got a 30mm gap along the edge of the paver. I also have pencil marks on top of the screeder that work as indicators to align the pavers with the right gap. When I'm satisfied this first paver is aligned correctly, I add a half-size paver next to it, as this is going to establish our brick pattern for the layout. I then repeat the process till I reach the other side of the pathway.
There's no use in looking back, going back, wishing back. sky. Oh, when the wind blows.
When the first row of pavers is set in place, I prepare for the next row by adding a little more mortar mix and screeding it flat. I work in sections defined by the length of the pavers. Here you can see how I'm using the screeder as a straight edge that I use to keep the pavers aligned and parallel in our pattern. After completing the second row, I double check with my tape measure that they're all lining up parallel to the stone step. The third and last row is added before I start the process of filling our dry concrete mortar mix in between the gaps of the pavers. This is going to help create a really solid attachment between the pavers and the concrete base. Using my large and small trowel and the broom, I continue to fill the gaps until they're about halfway to the top. My plan was to complete the first half of our paving today and finish off the second half tomorrow. So once I've filled enough sand between the gaps of our pavers, I wet the whole thing down. Then we let it set up overnight before we continue the next morning.
It's gentlemanly. Well, you're a good man, quite the best man, a real fine man. When the wind blows and the windows are closing, you let the world know that what has been has been.
I scrape out some of the concrete mortar base we put in yesterday. It still hasn't set up completely, so it's soft enough for me to scrape it out with this trowel so I can make room for the fresh base we're going to be adding for the continuation of the pathway today. I'm slightly changing my system for the second half of the pathway. I'm not going to be pre-mixing the material in the mixer as it creates too much dust in the air. Instead, I'm pouring it directly out of the bags into our base area and then gently spreading it around with my shovel. Because of our 2-to-1 ratio, I'm emptying 2 bags of concrete first and then adding 1 bag of the mortar on top. The concrete part of our mixture adds all the engineering strength as it mixes in with the wire reinforcement. The mortar is to allow for a really flat, smooth surface on the top of our base, so the pavers will sit really flat and level. You can see here how the mortar flattens out really easily with the screeder sitting on top of our concrete base. After creating a firm, flat area for reference, I fill out the pieces in between the pavers with my trowel so they match the rest of the flat surface.
There's no use in looking back, going back, wishing back. Cutting grass and chopping wood can be romantic. Sipping coffee under the apple tree is gentlemanly. Well, you're a good man.
I take extra care to make sure the pavers we're laying today match the level and flatness of the pavers we put in yesterday.
When the wind blows and the windows are closing, you let the world know that what has been has been. And there's no use in looking back, going back, wishing back.
As the pattern reaches the end of our treated timber frame, I take extra care to check that our gaps are a consistent 30mm. I'm also using the set square to check that each paver is sitting flat and level compared to the one next to it. After setting the last full-size paver in the corner, I move on to setting the 3 half-size pavers to finish off our pattern.
You master how to simplify. You turn rain into a blue sky.
I'm satisfied all the pavers are in the right position. I fill the gaps about halfway to the top with our leftover mortar and concrete, then completely soak it with water to activate the cement.
There's no use in looking back, going back, wishing back.
I give the dry concrete mix under our paving blocks a day to set up solidly before I move on to the next stage of filling the courses between the blocks. The sandstone we use to clad the concrete step with is very porous and can stain easily, so I'm wrapping the whole step in silver tape to protect it from the mixture we'll be using to fill in between our paving blocks. The tape will also help create a really sharp edge between the dark bluestone mix we'll be adding and the lighter sandstone step. I use a couple of towels to protect the top of the step, and little Gus checks in on me to see how the project's coming along. This is how the step and pathway look after we've finished the process of filling the gaps. I have all the ingredients for our fill lined up next to my cement mixer in the driveway next to our project. Portland cement will be the agent that binds all these ingredients together. The cement needs to be sifted to remove any lumps, as this will be another dry mix, and without water in the mixture, I need to remove all the lumps beforehand. The other ingredients we'll be using in the mixture is bluestone dust, small granite chips, mortar mix, and black pigment to give it a darker colour. I combine all these ingredients in my cement mixer and then add the black pigment until I get it looking dark enough.
Of all the magic places in the world I've been to, this is where my heart is. Oh, you know it's true. No matter where I go, I'm coming home to you. Been walking down the street so many times, my feet know every brick and stone. Could wear a blindfold. No matter what I do, I'm coming home to you.
I add the black pigment in last and give it time to blend with all the ingredients. The darkness and gravelly texture of this mix will contrast nicely with our rustic pavers.
All I know is this is where my heart is.
I've set myself up to start in the top right corner and work my way down the pathway. The middle Gus looks like he wants to get in on the action. The idea is to fill the gaps with our mixture to slightly under the top of the paver surface. This is going to help with the drainage so water can run inside the courses and drain off the pathway. I'm using a combination of my trowel and a small broom to work the mixture deep into the gaps and remove any air that might be in there, working slowly to avoid any unnecessary spills.
'Cause the thing is, I've got more love here than I can bear. Ooh. Of all the magic places in the world I've been to, this is where my heart is. Oh, you know it's true. No matter where I go, I'm coming home to you. Been walking down the street so many times, my feet know every brick and stone. Could wear a blindfold. No matter what I do, I'm coming home to you. And I don't know why, don't know why, don't know why I'm always feeling homesick.
By gently sweeping back and forth with my small brush, I can compact the mixture to the right height. It's a good opportunity to slow down and enjoy the process. We've done a lot of work to get to this stage, and this is the final step on completing the path.
Gonna stay in this moment. Gonna lay here on the grass. I don't need to feel lonely. I am finally home at last.
The recipe for our filler mixture can vary depending on the texture and colour you want to achieve. The only critical part of the recipe is to not have less than 1/6 Portland cement. The Portland cement is the glue that holds all the other ingredients together. The mixture needs to be strong enough to not wash away and hold up over time.
Of all the magic places in the world I've been to, this is where my heart is. Oh, you know it's true. No matter where I go, I'm coming home to you.
When I've completed filling all the gaps, I give the pathway one last sweep to remove as much material from the surface of the pavers as possible.
And I don't know why, don't know why, don't know why I'm always feeling homesick.
I finish off this process by wetting the entire pathway down. I'm careful to have my hose set on a misting setting, as I want to gently soak the pathway and not wash any of our material out. I give this a few days to set solidly before I let anyone walk on it.
Where the beauty never ends. Different cities, friendly faces, and perhaps I'm going back.
After checking that our transition between the charcoal fill and the sandstone step has come out nicely, I try out our pathway and step, as this was the whole point of this project, to create a nice, seamless, ergonomic entryway into the back door.
Of all the magic places in the world I've been to, this is where my heart is. Oh, you know it's true. No matter where I go, I'm coming home to you. Been walking down the street so many times, my feet know every brick and stone. Could wear a blindfold. No matter what I do, I'm coming home to you. And I don't know why, don't know why, don't know why I'm always feeling homesick. Oh.
After leaving that mortar for a couple of days to firm up, we're able to soak it a bit more thoroughly now, and over the next week it'll just harden up even more.
This completes the relaying of the concrete blocks as pavers. Join me in the next episode as we make some custom-made pavers to continue the pathway to the gate.
Of all the magic places in the world I've been to, this is where my heart is. Oh, you know it's true. No matter where I go, I'm coming home to you. Been walking down the street so many times, my feet know every brick and stone. Could wear a blindfold. No matter what I do, I'm coming home to you. And I don't know why, don't know why, don't know why I'm always feeling homesick. Oh, all I know, all I know, all I know is this is where my heart is. Oh, I have seen many places where the beauty never ends.
Thanks for joining me this week on my YouTube channel. Check the link below, and while you're at it, hit the subscribe button or make a comment so I can help you with your future construction solutions. And don't forget to follow our channel for more ideas and how-to tips for home and garden projects.